Sporting Wales podcast.
Supported by DragonBet,
Your go-to for Welsh sports news and views.
Hello and welcome to a new week and a new episode of the Sporting Wales podcast with me, Geraint Hardy. This week we'll review and preview the sport in action in Wales with two special guests in the studio thanks to our sponsor DragonBet. Now, Sporting Wales is co-founded by Gareth Anscombe and Alex Cuthbert, and you can find our Sporting Wales magazine in various sport clubs, gyms, leisure centres and lots of other venues right across Wales and online. So this week in the studio, two very important guests. I'm delighted to welcome to the studio a man that's currently guiding the careers of many Welsh sporting superstars, sports agent Ian Bird, and also former Wales, Crystal Palace, Celtic and Cardiff midfielder Joe Ledley. Welcome to you both. Both well?
Good, thanks. Yeah,
Joe,
good.
You're good?
Yep, good, thank you.
Going to behave today, Joe?
Yeah, best behaviour today.
Best behaviour, good. Ian, let's come straight to you though, because you really shouldn't be sat in the chair here in Cardiff right now. You should be probably hungover in Saudi Arabia, if you're allowed to drink there in a certain hotel. Because Joe Cadillo was meant to be fighting on Saturday night, and obviously that fight was postponed because of the cut on Fury's eye.
Yeah.
And you're his agent.
Yeah.
So how did you as a camp react to that postponement?
To be honest, it was quite difficult for him anyway. It was quite a long, protracted camp. He was out in America. There was a little bit of indecision around whether he was actually going to be fighting. But yeah, obviously Joe was disappointed. He trained really hard as he always does. And then it's just, I suppose, the nature of boxing. You know, Fury got a nasty cut on his eye, and all the conspiracy theorists then started banging the drum as to the fact that, you know, he had it done on purpose, which is just ridiculous, really. So yeah, the fight was off. It's been rearranged. And Joe will be hoping that with his promoters that he can secure another fight date as soon as possible, really. But yeah, he was disappointed. It would have been a big stage for him to fight on. But yeah, it's the nature of boxing, and unfortunately for boxers, and people see the glamour of boxing and the superstar fighters, your Tyson Furies and Anthony Joshua and the like. But if you don't get in a ring and fight, you don't get paid. And Joe would have had a long, expensive camp. And unfortunately he hasn't been able to fight, then you don't get paid. So he'd be looking to get another date fixed quickly to get back out and continue to retain his world title. So based on that, because I assumed that he was going to be on the same bill May 18th when Fury fights Usyk, that's not confirmed, no? No, it's not. And Joe, again, there's so many misnomers with boxing. There are things that happen along the way, and I'm sure he'll be speaking to his promoters to see where and when potentially he can get out and fight next. Yeah, interesting. We'll come back to that in a minute because we'll have a proper chat with Joe. Joe, how was your weekend, mate? Was it good? Yeah, very good, thank you. I'd have to see former manager Mark Hudson and his family. So yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, so
you're good friends, to take it. So kind of family weekend, yeah?
Yeah, it was. It's just good to see the kids back in school now. So I've had them most of the week. But yeah, we've kept in touch ever since, played with each other for a while at Cardiff, and our family get on. So yeah, it's good to see them.
And is it hard not to talk football straight away? As in, whenever I see you, we just talk football straight away. So is that what you do with kind of former players?
Yeah, more or less. Always firstly find out how they're doing. Obviously being disappointed, once getting sacked from Cardiff and then going to Sheffield United, which is a fantastic move for him. And, sometimes these things happen in football and, you get setbacks and, obviously got sacked again at Sheffield United. So now he's out there trying to look now where he's going to be going next. And, these things are difficult in football, and that's what happens when you go into management. You're never really secured into the job. You always got to keep on your toes. But, I wish him the very best of luck, and hopefully we'll be back in football soon.
So here we go. Any exclusive for us? Any idea? Is it going to be something he does? Is he going to go back in with Higginbottom somewhere, or is he going to go on his own? Like, what does he want to do you
Yeah, I think he wants to go in with a manager. He's still learning, he's still young. Sort of got thrown in the deep end of Cardiff. Wasn't going, typical well with Steve Morrison, had his opportunity. But sometimes when you do have the opportunity, you've got to take it with both hands. And, certain things didn't happen. He didn't have a transfer window. He didn't bring any players in. So, he got unlucky there. And now it's down to him to try and find, a new job and what career he wants to go down, whether it's going to be assistant manager or if he wants to be a manager. But at the moment, he still wants to learn. So I think it'd be better for him to go in with someone and get more experience.
Does it, when you're talking to him, does it make you think, I'm glad I never went down management way? Or do you fancy it?
It's difficult. The side of it, I'd love to become a manager because, I've vast experience. I've played with under brilliant managers at my time. I learned a lot from a lot of managers. But also it's that side of it where you're not secure. You could take your family and then after 6 months, you see it now, people get sacked within 2 or 3 months, and that's the downside of being into management, and which I don't sort of like. I'm very settled here in Cardiff, and we were away for over 10 years at the time, moving around. So there's bits of me would love to do it, but there's also a side of me which I'm just happy to let everyone else carry on.
So we can't run a headline. Next Cardiff City manager, Joe Ledley.
Well, I put my name in the hat. I've got my I'm on my A and B license, so you can never rule anything out at the moment. But at this present time, I'm definitely ruled out. But in future, anything can happen.
It's interesting you said the word family, and I suppose you'd get a lot of this with a lot of your clients. When you're in your prime, I take you have to be quite selfish. If you get a move to Palace, I know when you went to Australia as well, you went to Celtic, which is a long way from Cardiff, obviously. How were you talking to your wife at home about it? Was it like, I've got to take this because this is my time to do this for this 15, 20-year period? Or was it family first? No, not really. It was more, I was pretty selfish at the time because we didn't have any family, especially moving to Celtic. It was more or less, I'm still trying to find my feet as a player. I was only 23 at the time when I moved. And, sometimes you got to chase the dream and try and better yourself as a player and find these moves and take a gamble and take a risk. And that's what I wanted to do. Moved to Celtic. I sort of knew it was going to happen. I knew I was going to leave Cardiff. The contract just was never right. The situation was just never right. They had so many opportunities to sit me down and organise a new contract. But I had 3 or 4 bids. I think one was from Stoke for £6 million, which got rejected. And I told Cardiff I wanted to leave. So I was disappointed at that. And then when you get promised certain things and it doesn't happen, it makes your job a lot easier to move on. So I moved on to Celtic. And then again, deadline day when I was at Palace, just out of the window, didn't expect it to happen. I was very happy at Celtic. And it's just one of those decisions where you want to be in the Premier League. Obviously being down south, I followed the Premier League all my life. And I thought at 26 is probably the only time and opportunity that I'd have to play in the Premier League. So yeah, it's just one of those where you're quite selfish at the time, but the older you get, you're a bit more streetwise, and then obviously then family comes first.
I think to pick up on his point, as a professional athlete and footballer, rugby player, wherever it may be, you have to be selfish, and it's important that you've got a family network around you that are prepared to go with you wherever you go, because you've only got a short career and you have to maximise your earning potential over that period of the career, because Joe was lucky, he had a very good, long, distinguished career, but you can have a career-ending injury halfway through that, which cuts your earning capacity short. And you really just have to take the opportunities when they're there. And lots of players, tend to go through their careers at one club, the very lucky ones, the very best, that are paid well, your Steven Gerrard and the like. But for somebody like Joe, an opportunity that comes up, and like Celtic when it did for him, you just have to take those opportunities, and your family and your support network around you. Because the other thing to add in there is that footballers and professional sports people are humans as well, and they've got families and they've got things going on at home that and I think Warren Gatland always was very big around including family in the successful Welsh teams that they were over the years, because if you've got a successful balanced so if you've got a balanced home life and you've got a happy home life, you're a better athlete and a better performer. And I think that's an important thing. And you've obviously had a good support network over your career, and people forget that. You see these superstars on the TV, but they're actually humans as well, and they've got lives and private lives, and it's very difficult for them sometimes to manage that as well as what goes on the field in front of 30,000 people every Saturday.
Alex Ferguson used to say that he wanted his players to settle down and get married and be settled. Do you know what I mean? So they wouldn't be out partying as well, probably.
Yeah, that depends who they were marrying.
Victoria was an issue, I think, wasn't she, for David? Celtic, though, quickly, Joe, that is a massive football club. And that must have been just incredible playing there week in, week out, and with that amazing fan base.
Well, it was, I had various offers from certain clubs. Obviously, I think because I was 23 at the time, it was more the compensation. Nobody knew what was was how much I was valued at. You know,
Yeah.
it could have been between 4 to 10. You know, I played for Wales, captain Cardiff. So, but when the minute I walked into that stadium with my family, I just fell in love with it straight away. I knew this was going to be the club for me, and which is going to better me on future on as well in my career. And I didn't even realise how big it is. I've watched Old Firms before on Sky. I've never been to one, and you know, once you sign there, you realise how big this club is. It's huge. You know, wherever you go in the world, we went to America, we sold out. You know, NFL stadiums. Went to Australia, they're all sold out. And, you know, it's a worldwide club. It's one of the top 5 in the world, one of the biggest clubs in the world. And, you know, for me, it was an absolute pleasure to play for Celtic. And it was probably my favourite sort of career I had. You know, obviously I'm very grateful for playing for Cardiff, being a homegrown boy and, you know, supporting Cardiff. But, you know, playing the Champions League and 60,000 week in, week out was just, you know, you pinch yourself and realise how lucky you are as a player.
And the Old Firm games, you go back for them now, don't you? I've seen you go back a few times, yeah?
Yeah, I took my boy. I sucked him in as well now at the moment to be a Celtic fan, and he's obsessed with Celtic. And I took him at Hampden, and they won 2-1 against Rangers, and he loves it. And, you know, I have a great connection with the club still. You know, I keep in touch with a lot of the players, a lot of the staff as well. And, you know, it's just one of those where I don't know why, but the fans really sort of attracted to me, and I don't think I set the world on fire like certain players have, but I think because I had that bond with them, you know, off the pitch as well and on the pitch, just one of those clubs that I'm just very grateful. And you know, I'm trying to take them down to more games because, you know, it's one of those clubs which sucks you in. You know, it's such a intense place and the fans are incredible. You know, you just want to keep going there every time. So, you know, I'm a Celtic fan and I try and go up as much as I can.
And a Cardiff fan, of course.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. I was just saving you back here, just in case. Ian, you look after a plethora of people in the sports world. Can you give us like a quick list so the listeners get the idea of kind of the sports that you work across?
Yeah, so obviously Joe Cordina, we've touched on him, but I look after a couple of the current Welsh rugby players in Corey Domachowski, Kieran Azarati, Leon Brown, who's picked up a little injury at the moment. I've just had a young lad who's been brought into the squad, young lad Harry O'Connor.
Okay, today,
Yeah, so as a business, we also look after Aaron Wainwright. Will Rowlands is a client of ours. So we've. It's interesting because I work across different sports and I always have done. So there's a couple of lads over at Glamorgan Cricket as well that I've worked with, and then a couple of friends of mine who I went to school with and grew up with. Their sons are now playing football, so they came to me and asked me if I'd look after them. A young lad, James Waite at Newport County, and Lewis Webb, who's a goalkeeper down at Swansea. So I've been lucky enough to work across varying different sports, and of course you see the disparity then in certain aspects of how contracts work and various things. So I've even worked in golf over the years, you know, managed players on the now DP World Tour. So I've seen quite a lot of sport over the years, you could say.
Golf is an interesting one then. So how does that work contractually? Because they play for money, right?
That's right, yeah.
So different to a footballer's contract or a rugby player's contract. So kind of how your role must change then with that golfer in what they demand of you.
Yeah, it's more of a hands-on management role, if you like, when it comes to golf. You know, you need a team of people around you to help them run their. It's almost like a business within a sporting competition, if you like. Each player is their own business, so you know, you have to manage their transportation and accommodation for each tournament and visas and various things, as well as then, you know, all of their commercial contracts off the course, so any sponsorship deals and club manufacturer deals and those sorts of things. So it's quite more of a hands-on role with the individual as opposed to a football or rugby or even cricket player that's that you're contracted with a club and then the club handles all that for them. So same with Joe and the boxing. You know, I manage everything out of the ring for him, so all of his commercial stuff, and you get a real sort of you develop a bond with those athletes because they're so grateful for everything they get. And that's not to say that your footballers and whatnot aren't grateful, but it's just different. They get a contract, they know how much they're earning every week. Whereas, a golfer who's trying to make his way on the European tour, literally, the money it's not as glamorous as you see Rory and these boys who are at the very, very top of their game earning millions and millions and millions. But for the lads that are trying to make their way in the game, it's a very different story, I can assure you. And
because missing a putt or one kind of snap.
Oh, if you miss the cut, you don't earn any money. So, and you might have spent thousands to get to a tournament, whether it be in the Middle East or on the continent or even out to America. If you don't make the cut, you don't earn any money, and you've got a caddy to pay, and all of these sorts of things. So it's a brutal environment. A golf of all of them, from a mental point of view is, and I know you like your golf, and Jesus, I get nervous over a putt when I'm playing for a fiver with my mates. Imagine the pressure that these boys go through, and that's why I think you see the real best golfers in the world. Their mental capacity and their ability to cope with pressure is what differentiates them.
Just quickly, because I like my golf as well. So I'd imagine you get invited to a few pro-ams, right?
Yeah.
So who is the best golfer you've had a knock with?
I didn't actually have a knock with him, but I was lucky enough to walk a practice round with Rory McIlroy and one of my clients at the time, which was. I mean, it was just unreal. I was dying to have a...
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, I can't shank with it. Like, I was there just watching, and he's a mad Man United fan. So we were chatting. He likes his boxing as well, and obviously his rugby. He's a nice lad, Rory. And again, we touched on it earlier. Just a nice human being. A really nice bloke. And you forget that when you see them winning major tournaments on the TV. They're just, we were just having a crack. It was just. So that for me, getting to walk a practice round. It was only 9 holes, but it was brilliant.
Yeah. Joe, would you back yourself to hit a driver down the middle if Rory was playing with you?
Absolutely no chance. You're going straight right, out of bounds. Yeah, I'm bandit.
Fair enough. Eddie Hearn then, because obviously he looks after Joe in terms of a promoter, right?
Yeah.
So do you have to deal with Eddie Hearn?
So Joe's trainer, Tony Sims, is his manager. So again, boxing is just...
Lots of people involved.
Lots of people involved.
Yeah.
So all of his in-ring stuff, his manager and Joe himself a lot will particularly lately, will deal directly with Eddie. You probably would have seen last summer Eddie was down in Cardiff, and we were at Cardiff Arms Park looking at the potential for him to fight there, and for whatever reason timings didn't quite work out for that, but I think moving forward, Joe would love to fight in Cardiff. He was obviously involved with Cardiff Rugby as a youngster, and Cardiff City as a youngster. A very talented young sportsman growing up, but you've probably heard him say over the years in various different talks, whereas
he says it every time.
He kept getting sent off because he was a little tear away scrum half, and he just kept punching people. And his dad said, "Listen, that's it. You're gonna have to stop playing. I'm going to put you into the boxing ring." And it's probably the best thing he's ever done, because he had an absolutely fantastic amateur career, Joe. People forget that. He's won world championships, and he went to the Olympics and Commonwealths, and he had I think it was over 170 amateur fights.
Wow.
That's before he's even started as a professional. So he's had a really long career, and he's actually older than he looks, So he might have 3 or 4 more fights, I think, maximum, and then he's probably looking to move on and do something else.
Will he get his dream? Will he get that fight in Cardiff?
I think so. Yeah, I really hope he does. He's he wants to fight in big fights, and at the stage of his career he's at now, it purely comes down to money, and he wants to fight for big, the big purses, and there are a number of names in the UK potentially that he could fight. Josh Warrington, Lee Wood are opponents that potentially could raise the money that he feels as though he warrants now, and rightly so. And then it's whether he perhaps makes a decision to go back up to lightweight, because he started his career at kind of catch weights, but he won a British title at lightweight. But he probably wasn't quite big enough at that stage. It makes such a big difference. The different weight categories, and he wasn't quite a big enough lightweight. I feel as though he's probably grown physically in the time that he's been a professional. He's got a brilliant nutritionist and strength and conditioning trainer in Dan Lawrence, and the work that they put in to try and grow his frame as you look at him now to when he first his first weigh in to when he weighs in now, it's like he's a different animal. So, and there's some big fights up at lightweight potentially for him in America. So the craze at the minute is Saudi Arabia, and there's undoubtedly big money to fight there, but you have to have as they say in boxing, you have to have the right dance partner. And I think it's a big couple of years for Joe, and he wants to he's a mad Welsh football fan. He loves Cardiff City. The dream is to fight there, but he needs to build towards being able to to fill out that stadium, because it's not easy. But I think he's got the backing of certainly the Welsh sporting public, and him along with Lauren Price. She's with a different promoter, and that's
hard. Yeah,
it's a bit of a nightmare. Although the promoters are now working together more so than ever. Although Lauren's with a different promoter to Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn. So she's with Sky Sports. Frank Warren is TNT, formerly BET, and Eddie's obviously on with DAZN. But if we could get some kind of a night, in Cardiff with Joe, Lauren, the likes of Liam Williams, although he's coming off a loss for him, sadly, in his last fight. But showcasing all because there's lots of talent in Welsh boxing. There always has been. So
reading in between the lines there, does Joe need to fight in a Saudi, in America once or maybe twice, and then a Cardiff City Stadium fight could be really, really on the cards?
Yeah, I think in his mind he's written how he wants to finish, and for him that would be that would be the dream for him to sign off at Cardiff City Stadium in front of all the City fans. And he's a regular down there. He's always ringing me at 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon trying to get him tickets to go and watch last minute as ever. Although Joe's going to be working with us now as a football consultant within the business, so I'm gonna divert Cordina's calls to Ledley to get him to sort him out.
Joe's ringing Joe. Yeah, I was I was kind of aware of this a little bit. So tell us what's going on there. Because Joe, you're stepping into kind of that mentorship world with football agents, yeah?
Yeah, obviously talking about management before. Like I said, it's not for me at the moment. I want to go into a different side of it, and that's obviously working with Ian and trying to look after players on a football side of it, because I've been there and done it. I've experienced amazing nights. I've experienced some bad defeats and certain things. So I think for me it's one of those where I like to go out and watch football. I'd love to see these young kids coming through, getting these contracts, moving to these big clubs, and that's what I thrive off now. That's what I want to achieve. That's what I want to help these young kids, not just young kids, but experienced players as well, to sort of better their career and better them as a person as well. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to work with Ian and the company as well. So it's all new to me. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard work, and it's hard work which I've got to put in, which I'm capable of doing as well. And hopefully, we can go in the right direction.
So is that more kind of, your role, and Ian might correct me here, is it going to be kind of a mentor for them and kind of give your experience on the day-to-day of what it's like to be a footballer and what to expect if you move clubs or if you're having a bad period of form?
Well, yeah, obviously that's one of the main things I can give to the table, or give to the the player and the family as well. Not just the player but the parents. What they're going to experience as well, because if you get to these clubs, your life will change very quickly. There's a lot of money involved in football. There's a lot of fame. There's a lot of also ups and downs. You could get emotionally distracted as well. So just sort of coming into that side as well. Obviously, I want to. Like I said, I want to see these young kids or these boys and men, have the best opportunity that they can. And, football is a short career, and you've got to take everything with both hands. And that's the main thing, as a player, what you've got to do, and enjoy it as well, because, like I said, it is very short.
We noticed in that well-being and mental health has come into kind of more of the forward front of your mind with clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think, again, touching on it earlier, these young people are humans as well, and we have to be mindful of of what goes on, behind the eyes. Everyone's got a story, and I think it's important. And one of the reasons and the beliefs we have in wanting Joe to come in and be part of our business is he can help those young athletes, and from a position of strength and experience, because he's been there and done it, and we're rolling a similar model out in rugby. We've got an ex player in Corey Allen who's coming on board with us, in a rugby capacity, and it's really important that young players, whether they be male, female, whatever sport they're in, can lean and get as much experience from speaking to these people. And the business side of contracts and all those things are areas where agents and trained professionals can help. But players who've actually been there and done it, you can't buy that type of experience. And Joe's new to it and is only just starting out. But to sit in front of a young player and his family with somebody like Joe Ledley or Corey Allen in rugby, is something that parents will buy into. We feel, and it's so important that you get the right advice at the young age, and agents often get looked at and frowned upon as the bad guys. We spoke about it before we started. But players need protection as well, because clubs ultimately, they're a business and you're a commodity. And when the business doesn't want the commodity, you get moved on. And it's just an unfortunate thing, Joe, isn't it?
It can be brutal.
And that's why we talked about being selfish,
You can, you could be completely bombed away from the first team, and you're asked to train with the younger groups, or you're asked to come in at different times. I've seen it in football myself. These are grown men, coming in expecting to train with the first team, and all of a sudden something's happened, and you're removed from that, and you've got to come in at certain times and train with the. It's those sort of sides of football which people don't see, and. It's not nice, because I don't think any other job would be like that. But it's part and parcel of football.
I'm not going to name the player, but I know of a story, and the player told me that he wasn't starting any games for a certain club, because if he started a game, it would trigger another year on his contract for that club, and therefore that player couldn't play. Probably should have been starting, and also then had to move from the club. Things like that are things that fans don't. How do you deal with that, Joe? Because you should be playing, but for a financial reason, you're not being picked in the team.
Well, sometimes as a player, I think that's scenario you could probably understand it a little bit more, because maybe the club is struggling financially. Yeah, you're good enough to be playing, but Ian probably knows a bit more with sort of this. One, is it good to be in your contract, because there's a possibility where, when it comes to, say, if you're playing 22 games and you're on 21, there's a good chance that you might not play like that player has. So there's certain ways of doing it. But, for me, I think it's one where if you have been completely thrown out from unexpected and you're asked not to even come in and train with the first team, I think that's difficult for the player, coming in after they've trained. So you're coming in at 2:00, you're doing your training till 4 or 5, and then you're going home. It's lonely scenario to be in.
Yeah, it's hard. So, would you step in that moment, Ian, or would you leave that to the club? Like, how do you balance that situation? Because your client's unhappy.
Yeah,
there's a clause in the contract that essentially you negotiated. So it's really kind of hard to get around that.
Yeah, I think those instances are probably few and far between. I mean, generally, if you've got a player that's got those types of clauses in their contract, it's a business, right? So coaches, they don't really care too much about the finances. They want to win every Saturday. So I would say that kind of instance would be unique. But I think, like we touched on, players are commodities to clubs, and the clubs run as a business. And I think, we're often looked upon sometimes, and it gets a bit of a stigma, because you see these high-profile football agents earning millions and millions, and from certain individual deals. But look, ultimately the clubs, pay those pay those fees because they want the player and they believe that the player is going to add value to that club, you know. And you know, it's no different to, you know, we're salespeople, agents are salespeople, and you know, recruitment companies don't get bad press because they hire somebody to go and work for Lloyd's from, you know, HSBC, and they get paid a fortune to you know. So yeah, I'm being facetious, but I just think that the role of an agent, particularly in today's, particularly with the, you know, the turmoil that's been in Welsh rugby over you know, the last 12 months, you know, agents play a crucial role, and there are a lot of players that are unfortunately, you know, have lost jobs. You know, we forget that there's players that have lost their jobs over this situation with funding and the state of Welsh rugby at the moment. So, you know, there's going to be tricky times ahead as well. I think the game is rebalancing in Wales, and I think that better times are around the corner. But you know, we're in a period at the moment where there is a reset going on, and you know, players are playing for their livelihoods.
How bad was it? Because basically a year or so ago, it was that Wales versus England game in Cardiff, players potentially going on a strike because of the contract situation and lack of money that was coming in towards them as well. How bad was it? And from your seat, how worried were you in that period?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you were speaking to players daily who were worried about how they're going to pay their mortgage. You know, young families, pressures like every other household would have if, you know, you lose your job in any walk of life. You know, but because it's professional sport, there's almost, you know, this, it's like a bubble, you know, you just never think it'll happen to you. You know, but there were times last year particularly, and you know, you look at somebody like Kieran Azarati now, who's a client of mine. You know, the contract offer at Cardiff, purely forced upon the club, was, you know, he was having to take a dramatic pay cut, and he was worried that, you know, he might have to look at other ways to make a living, you know, by playing rugby part-time. He spoke about it this week in the press, and that's a true story. You know, I was speaking to him daily, you know, because he was, you know, to the point where, you know, mentally he was really struggling with how he was gonna afford to support his family. You know, luckily, you know, he's somebody that's gone through that really dark period, and I said that to him before the start of the Six Nations, because he just missed out on the World Cup last year. He was desperately disappointed. And, you know, I just said to him at the start of the Six Nations, just remember where you were this time last year, and, you know, how low you felt, and use that now as your inspiration to go on and make that number 3 spot your own. And he's doing brilliantly well, as is his partner in crime, Corey Domachowski, who's he's a larger than life character. He's taken international rugby, or certainly the living the life as an international rugby player by storm. And both of the lads are doing brilliantly well, you know. But again, Corey was in a similar position where, you know, they didn't know whether or not they were going to afford to be able to play rugby.
So they've taken that hit because they want to play, and want to play for Cardiff as well.
Yeah, look, you know, by the end of it, we were able to get to a reasonable position. You know, so it made it easier for them. So the contracts in the end were okay. And now they've gone on from that, and they're now in a good position. You know, because they've signed new contracts, and within the space of 12 months, things have changed completely for them, you know. But there are other players who unfortunately aren't as lucky as that, and there will be a continuing period of reset with players, you know, that will end up going over to play in England. But you know, there's only so many spots, you know, and there's a lot of players. And you're seeing clubs go out of business in England. We're in a position where we've still got four regions. You know, I think the hope is that we can have 4 thriving regions. But money is tight. Money is tight everywhere. And, you know, unless you're a real super high profile player who's going to go to Racing like Owen Farrell and earn €1 million, you know, the big money moves to France aren't there for your standard, you know, professional rugby player. They're just not there. And, you know, clubs are having to tighten their belts across the board, certainly in Wales and in England. And things are going to be tough for another couple of years yet. And hopefully, we'll see there's a lot of clamour at the moment for an Anglo-Welsh league or a British and Irish, potentially a British and Irish league. And hopefully some money, will be introduced if that happens, but we'll have to wait and see.
From a fan's perspective, so a year ago, you get certain players that were contracted and you think, okay, they're happy with that deal because they've stayed. Some have moved to other leagues and moved abroad because the money for them wasn't in Wales or in England maybe, and they've gone to other places. Does that mean, so let's take Aaron Wainwright, for example. Yeah. If the Dragons are looking at their squad, they had Rio Dyer, they had Aaron Wainwright, and they got Tame Basham, who's currently looking to sign a deal somewhere. Scarlett potentially is the move, or to England. Are the regions going to have to kind of go, right, we can't have all three, we need to pick two of the three or one of the three in certain situations?
Yeah, I guess that's natural selection, I guess, isn't it? It's a process. I have to give credit to the Dragons. They pulled out all the stops to keep Aaron. He's a world class number 8, and as you can imagine, he had opportunities to go and play elsewhere. But he loves the Dragons. Who are finding it a little bit tough at the minute. They had a bad result on the weekend. But for him, he's committed to the cause. And I have to commend the Dragons for the way in which the new ownership group and the club put a contract together that Aaron wanted to stay and play for. And it's a unique situation, I suppose, but he's one of the best players in Wales, and we want to keep our best players playing in Wales if we can. I don't think that we should be worried about them going elsewhere either, though. I think there needs to be a balance. But if we can keep our best players in Wales, we want to, and improve our own product, because we're seeing a resurgence, I think, in stadium, tickets being sold at, it was another sellout at Cardiff on Saturday. I was there for that. They were unlucky, Cardiff. The Ospreys, their game yesterday was brilliant, and if that had been a Premiership game, with a last minute drop goal, everyone would be lauding about how great, what a league the English Premiership is. Yeah. I was speaking to Alex this morning in the gym, believe it or not, and he said that for him, the URC is the toughest out of the two at the minute, because week in, week out, you're playing against good teams. Ulster are a difficult team to beat, and you have to commend the Ospreys yesterday. And it was a good game to watch. I loved it. It was brilliant to watch. The Scarlets had a right go on Friday night against Munster. They run out of steam a little bit, but there is that. I think there is a belief that there are some good times around the corner, and I think the fans are buying into that. If the Ospreys can sort themselves out and move away from the Liberty, which they're looking to do, and get playing in front of full houses like they did against Cardiff on New Year's Day, albeit perhaps on a better pitch.
Yeah.
We can create that buzz again around Welsh rugby and be grateful and thankful for not only the talent that we have in this country and always have had, and watch them and enjoy it, And I think then you'll get, you create something that people want to invest in, and a product. When you're looking at that game yesterday, the game was brilliant to watch, but there was no one in the ground, and it looks like there's no one in the ground because it's so big. Yeah. You get that at the Brewery Field or maybe down at St Helens, and you get a full house, and then all of a sudden people have got a different perspective on what that game actually was to watch.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Talking about the selfish nature that you have to have in sport to kind of maximise your career, as in the talent because of your age, and also potential of money to provide for your family for future life. From a sports agent point of view, how would you like rugby to go now? Would you back a British league? Would you, and also abandon the 25 cap rule? I take it you'd want that as well. Or do you want us to try and keep the format that we have and kind of keep Welsh players in Wales?
Look, I think that the format that's currently in play, I think it suits the Irish provinces perfectly. They play their best players in Europe, and the way their Irish players are looked after in Ireland, it suits them. The URC then becomes a sort of a feeder league for
the strength and depth they've got. It's unbelievable, right?
But that's only something that's come about over the last sort of 10 years, So for me, I think an Anglo-British league, whatever that looks like, or a two-league premiership, I think we have to be selfish. I think from a product point of view, that would be fantastic. And we saw the European games with Bath and Harlequins and the crowds that we had for those games. I think there would be, because ultimately the broadcasters are where the money comes in. It's no different in football, rugby, cricket, whatever sport it is. It's the broadcast rights fee that is where the money comes from. You get sponsors and you get various other things that come in from a corporate point of view, but the broadcast is where the money is. And I know that and Sam Warburton's been a big sort of advocate for this British League, isn't he? And I think that there are sort of moves. CVC, who have been a big investor in Northern Hemisphere rugby, are a company that would like to see that happen. And it all comes down to money. For me, look, I would love to see an Anglo-British League, and for us purely being selfish, let the Irish and the Scots go and play against the South African teams. And there's a big thing at the minute, isn't there, about carbon footprints and all this. I mean, the URC is not
great for that. No.
Is it? Whereas an Anglo-British League, playing against Bath and Gloucester and Harlequins, it would be fantastic. But I just, for the minute, it's not something that's imminent anyway.
Yeah. Well, just to warn you and everyone listening, we have recorded a podcast with David Moffat recently. We haven't dropped it yet, and there's a lot of information to come from that from his point of view, really? As you can imagine. It's very interesting, it's very opinionated, and we will be releasing that podcast soon. Yeah, no, he's very opinionated, isn't he? Yeah, it's typical David Moffat, but it is very interesting. CVC, private equity and investment comes into that and kind of moving the global game on. So it's a very interesting podcast, and we will get that out soon. Let's switch away back to football then, if we can, Joe, and Cardiff City on the weekend. Norwich 4, Cardiff City 1. I didn't watch the whole game. I've seen bits of it, but Cardiff are really in a bad rut at the moment, Joe.
Yeah, I watched the game. Very disappointing. It could have been. It was lucky it was 4. Could have been a lot more, especially in the first half. Scrappy goal for Cardiff to get from the run of play as well. They should have been 3 or 4 down from then, and it's just one of those at the moment with Cardiff. They're just trying to find their way of style of play. It seems like at the moment it's a little bit off the cuff, and obviously Rambo missing, a few other players missing. It's sort of the new players are still trying to find their feet, and it's all changed at the moment. But yeah, it's been disappointing, especially when you get that result against Watford away from home, was massive, and then a defeat against Preston and then Norwich. But it's a championship. It's one of the hardest. It probably is the hardest league. You can never look at that and predict any scores, because it's just one of those things where teams have an off day, or it's just an unexpected situation where set plays are key in our league as well. When you got to go out there and you just got to be concentrated so much. And it's Cardiff in a position now where they're not looking up; they're looking from behind.
Well, that's the mad thing, isn't it? Because they play Blackburn Tuesday night and they play Stoke Saturday. They lose both them games. That 8 points from bottom 3 right now, that could flip. But if they manage to get 4 points from them 2 games in the championship, they're not worried about relegation. What is it though? Is it lack of creativity? Is it the fact they haven't got an out and out striker that's scoring goals?
Yeah, I think those two are key. Creativity. You say creativity, but you have got Aaron Ramsey in that squad. You've got the likes of Joe Rose, Wintle on his day. I think the big blow for Cardiff was missing out on Kiefer Moore. I think a striker really to set the tone from the front would have been what Cardiff needed. I think Kiefer Moore, he's been there and done it at Cardiff, and you've seen now when he's gone to Ipswich, I think he's got 3 or 4 goals. And
3 and 3, I think. Yeah.
He's one of those players where you can change your game, you can go direct, and he's going to bring other players in, link up with Aaron, link up with Rolls. But not just that, for the big guy, he's quick as well.
Yeah.
So even if it does go over the top, he can get on the end of things. He's a natural goal scorer. He's dangerous on set plays. And I think missing out on Kiefer Moore was a big blow for Cardiff. And it's one of those now where they just need to regroup, because you can't overthink in the Championship because there's so many games. There's one around the corner, and you've seen the manager's press conference. He's had exactly the same thing. You can't have a go at the players. You can't constantly have a go because there's a game within the next few days, and you got to try and get positives out of it and regroup and go again because it's just relentless in that league.
Ian, this is an interesting, right? So Cardiff City's tactic in January transfer window was Bullet had a list. He said he had a list. He said what he wanted, and he was really open about it. It was no kind of like hiding our cards. Is that a mistake in terms of kind of sports agency world? Because for me, Kiefer Moore, if they tried to play that down, they could have sneaked him in without no one knowing. Because they were so
early as well, he announced it, didn't he? It was the beginning of January, I think.
And then everyone else piles in and tries to get him as well then. Do you know what I mean? Should they have kept it quiet? Or or in inner circles, do you all know anyway?
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? I think, potentially they could have tried, but, there was such a clamour, I think, from the fans as well to bring Kiefer Moore in that it was always going to be one of those.
He bought a house share as well. That didn't help, did it?
I
Jumped the gun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, look, Cardiff's one of those, isn't it? It's like, it's such a big club.
Yeah.
And it's just a frustration. You think, you've got all the raw materials there. City Centre Stadium, Cardiff's a big club. I've been always had big players over the years, Joe being one of them. Rambo's back there now. You just think, like, can't you get yourselves together? And you just always hope that they can, because the year they were in the Premier League, for someone who lives in, it was brilliant. Every other Saturday, it was Liverpool, Man United.
It's great for the city as well, isn't it?
Great for the city, and you're just hoping that they get themselves together. But it's one of those, isn't it? The club is, it kind of is what it is at the minute, and the manager is undoubtedly under pressure, and we'll have to see what happens, over the course of the next few weeks. But you think, the first quarter of the season, they were looking at the playoffs, everyone was like, geez,
But that does intertwine with Ramsey being fit, because he was fit at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And that feel good was there, right?
Yeah, and you could see he was fresh, beginning of the season, nothing holding him back, going
Stands
out there,
out
just
anyway.
just expressing himself, creating, sort of having that free roll, which he's perfect with, where he can just run, get on the ball, don't get in these positions where they hurt defenders, hurt midfielders. He's a nightmare to play against. And even when he came on against Preston, he didn't have much of the ball, but he sets that tone because people don't see the side of him, how much he runs. His fitness levels go through the roof. And I think that's what they're lacking at the moment, is sort of that desire and that athleticism and, just running. That's what the fans love as well. Cardiff fans love people running and crunching into tackles. I don't know why, but that's what he would rather see instead of someone hitting 140 yards in. But yeah, it's without Aaron, I think Cardiff struggle a lot. I'm a big fan of Turnbull. They signed at Celtic. I watched him, a lot. Very good player, but it is very difficult when you have these moves from Celtic and coming to Cardiff. Obviously, like we're saying, with family, and he's just finding his feet. But I think in the next few months, he's going to be a very impact player for Cardiff.
Yeah, that's good to know. So with Ramsey, though, is it kind of just a bit of luck he needs? He needs to get that fitness up, and then do you think he'll be back to what we expected come March as well, with Wales playoffs on the horizon?
Yeah, we've already seen it this season at Cardiff. Glimpses of what he's capable of doing. As a player, when you're injured for a long time, it's very difficult because you can do all the fitness, you can do all the physio, you can do all the fitness, you can do all the training, but once you're on that pitch, there's so many different twists and turns and niggles, and that's when you realise you're picking up certain things, you're over contemplating certain muscles, which you can't just do in training. So, he's been very unfortunate the last few months. Obviously picked up another injury, but with Wales coming back, I think it's just for him now just to concentrate. I can't really say it just for Wales, but make sure you're 100% fit. Don't rush anything. Get all the treatment right. Get your training right. I'm sure he knows what he's capable of doing and what he needs to do. He knows his body better than anybody, but it's just a shame that it's happened at this time, especially with Cardiff struggling and Wales, around the corner as well.
Will there be internal pressure from Cardiff, though, to kind of, if you're feeling right, get on? Or is he strong enough to kind of say, and he's got the authority to say, no, I'm not right?
Yeah, he will. He's experienced. He's been to unbelievable clubs. He knows his body more than a physio or a manager or a coach will know. So, I think it's frustrating as a manager because you are under pressure and you don't have long. Like we were saying earlier, you don't have long and you need your best players. But also, it's when you rush a player back, you have these scenarios. These things happen. It takes time to get a player to match fitness, and I think maybe just come back a little bit too quick and picked up a niggle. But hopefully, it's not a 2-3 weeker.
Yeah,
hopefully it's just a week or two, and then he's back on the grass.
Yeah, hope so for Cardiff and for Wales, of course. Before we go to Jim's Level and Dragon Bet to get the odds for the weekend, quickly on Wales's playoff hopes in about a month or so. Wales-Finland, feeling positive about that one? In Cardiff, that game, we made Cardiff City Stadium a bit of a fortress.
Yeah, I feel a lot better sat here now than when I watched the last few games. I think it's been disappointing. I think with the players they've got, but also is that start of the season where fitness levels were all over the place, and it's good to see. Well, I think Leeds have got half of the Welsh team squad anyway at the moment. So no, but it's good to see these players move on. Like Kiefer Moore, for instance, playing week in, week out. Connor Roberts is gone. So yeah, I think I'm a lot more confident now than I was at the beginning of the season, especially seeing these players. But again, I think Aaron's key. You could see that last game when he wasn't playing. I think if we can get him fit and a few games under his belt, then it's Wales are in a good position. I think they're very lucky with the draw as well. Finland, these teams are not what they used to be. Every game is going to be very difficult, but that home advantage is massive. Yeah. You've seen what the stadium's like when the fans are singing. They create this amazing atmosphere, and it's like a 12th person. It lifts the spirit, it lifts the performance, and I think playing at home is a key. And hopefully they can do it. It's 2 games, and these young kids are coming through, and obviously the senior players. Wales have been so lucky. 2 Europeans, 1 World Cup. Being really blessed in football.
What's your favourite memory of kind of the Euros in 2016 in particular? Because that was the main one, wasn't it? Yeah. You've got one memory, or is it just the whole thing?
Well, you almost missed out, didn't you?
Yeah,
you were injured.
Yeah. I think just listening to our national anthem the first time and just realising that, right, okay, we're here now. This is what it's about. But for me, I think the Belgium game was probably the standout performance. We knew we had the capable, winnable chance against them because we've played them before and beat them. But we started terrible in the first 20 minutes. We were all over the place. We just couldn't get going. But then all of a sudden, after that, everything clicked, and we actually outplayed Belgium. I thought we were brilliant against them after that. And
was there a reason for that in that Belgian game, Joe? Was it?
Well, I think a few of us are shaking off a few hangovers at the time. After that Northern Ireland game, we had a good session. But it took us a while to get going. But I think the way we played it was remarkable.
It was.
We're against so much odds. You think Belgium, favourites to win it.
It was such a good team. To beat Belgium was.
The team were unbelievable. De Bruyne, Fellaini, Lukaku. You can go on. There's a list of them. But that was probably my standout one.
Yeah. So Wales to beat Finland, do you reckon? He's got some decisions to make, though, Paige, in terms of selection. Because Ampadu, quickly, I know I've just asked you a question and spoken over you straight away, but Ampadu's been playing centre-back for Leeds at the moment. When he played against Cardiff, he was awesome at the back. Yep. So does he play centre-back for Wales? Midfield?
I think for Wales, he'll play midfield. I don't think there's... No disrespect to the midfielders there at the moment. I think he's the better option for Wales. I do think Ampadu is a centre-half, though. I preferred him playing centre-half.
Yeah, he looks so comfortable for Leeds.
Yeah, he reads the game. He's quietly quick. He's good on the ball. I think he gets a bit more time on the ball as well around centre-half, I think. But for Wales, midfield, and fair play, I thought the last few games for Wales, he was probably the standout player. And, I think he's got a good connection with James in there. Those two have been brilliant.
Awesome. Yeah.
And James is doing amazing as well for club Birmingham. So, yeah.
What does he do up top then, Joe? Who does he start up top?
I would always start Kiefer Moore.
Straight away, okay.
Yeah, Kiefer Moore, 100%. He's such a threat. He's a nightmare to play against as a defender. But it's a winnable game. I think you'd fancy yourselves. But even Finland might even think the same. And that's no disrespect to Wales, but if you've looked over the last few games, Wales haven't really dominated the game. I thought they were good against Croatia.
Yeah, really good.
Thought they were really good, but apart from that, you've got to fancy your chances against Finland. That's no disrespect to Finland, but to have an opportunity to beat them and play one more knockoff stage, you go into a European competition in Germany, which is going to be incredible. The stadiums, the whole city.
The whole of Wales will be in Germany.
Well, it would, yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Wales was in Dubai for the World Cup.
Yeah. It's amazing. Travel. We're just all jumping on the bandwagons when they come, and I think it's great. Yeah. So you're going to go Finland, then Poland will be the tricky one if we get them next, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Let's look forward now to the weekend's activity then, and to do that, let's welcome James Level from DragonBet.
DragonBet, the bookmaker of Wales with the best odds on Welsh sport. Please gamble responsibly.
James, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, all good. Winning weekend. Everyone loves to hear about bookies winning, so I'm smiling and happy, and I've got some awful punters' money in my pocket to spend, ready for Cheltenham. I'm ready to go for war now.
He does this every single week. It's like no different. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see James Level's big smile on his face. But actually, you did lose some money. You lost money to Alex Cuthbert and myself in our charity bet.
Thank God it was through a good cause, because that would have upset me. So yeah, your charity bet shot in. That man Will Evans scored a perler, didn't he?
And Newport won,
Yeah, so we gave you 12 to 1, I think, as a boost, which was probably a bit over generous. So, 12 to 1 there. And Cathy back to winner on the horses as well, believe it or not.
Fantastic
so
stuff.
he had 5 to 2 on that. So I think we put 145 quid this weekend towards the charity, which is great.
So the charity currently 165, yeah? That's what we got in the bank?
That's right, yeah, 165.
Okay.
Going up.
Joe Ledley and Bird, that's you being witnesses to that, what we've got in the back, right? We've got to watch James. Let's go straight to rugby with you then, James. It's going to be a really tough one. We haven't really touched upon a Wales Island here, but it's going to be really hard for Wales to get a result in Ireland. I think we're all across that. How do you see it in terms of odds?
Yeah, just no chance really, is there? But we're going 6 to 1, so obviously best price on Welsh Sport as always. So we're 16 to 1, which is the biggest ever. I think it's 12 to 1 other places. And the handicap, what's the handicap? I think the handicap is 22 points.
Okay.
So you can get a 22-point head start on Wales. I still don't think that's enough. I think they're going to get rolled over, and they need more than 22 points.
Yeah, Ian, I know you like your rugby. It's going to be really hard, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no getting away from it. I mean, Ireland, for me, are the best team, obviously, in the Six Nations. They proved that, I think, by the way they played against France in the opening weekend. But look, I think, Wales will go there with no fear. They're going to try and play rugby. We could be in a different position talking about this here with 2 wins under our belt after 2 narrow losses with a very, very inexperienced team. But I think, look, the task ahead is a big one. I'll be there. It would be lovely if we could go and turn them over in Dublin. But yeah, it's going to be a really tough ask. It's going to be a lot of pressure on the scrum. But look, who knows if the weather completely explodes in Ireland as it can do, and the conditions aren't great, who knows? But hopefully the lads can go over there and really put a spirited performance in, as they will, I'm sure. But yeah, the task is going to be tough, but who knows?
Yeah. Everything to gain, I think, is the way to look at it.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Any specials? Because that's the way the Welsh fans will probably bet on this one for you guys. So what specials have you got on the rugby?
Yeah, we've got loads of specials on site. But first of all, I feel terrible for him. He's got such a bad life, hasn't he? Sports, going over to watch the rugby in Dublin. It must be tough. Tough living like
he's
you.
in every stadium there is, I tell you.
I know, yeah. Awful. Yeah, we've got loads of specials on the site. I think, so a bookie doesn't like to give out good bets, but I do think this is a good bet. So we've gone Tommy Reffel to be 7-2 to be top tackler in the game. He was top tackler against England, and I think Wales will be doing a lot of defending, as we all do. So him to be 7-2 top tackler is a decent little bet, I'd say.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I agree with that. What about kind of try scorers for Wales, if we're going to sneak a try out there?
I don't know what we got for the match, but we got overall to be Wales' top try scorer for the whole tournament. Josh Adams, we got 7-1, but he hasn't put the ball over the line yet, has he? Rio Dyer's 9-4, he's on 1, and Alex Mann is currently the Wales top try scorer. He's got 2, and we've got him 11-2 to be 11-10 to be top try scorer by the end of the tournament.
Okay, Scotland, England, what have we got on them?
Yeah, Scotland, England. Scotland are 3 points faves against England, so they're 8-13 to win the match, or you can bet them -3. It's been a long time since Scotland are favourites against England, but I think they'll do it because England weren't very good, were they, last week?
Yeah, it still surprises me though that I to see Scotland favourites. I don't know.
Yeah.
It does surprise me, if I'm honest. And then France, Italy, I take it France all the way, yeah?
Yeah, France all the way. You can have 33 to 1 Italy, but save your money. Well, actually, don't spend it with me.
I never heard you say that before in your life. Okay, let's turn our attention to football then. Cardiff City got a double header. Cardiff Blackburn Tuesday night, then Cardiff Stoke on Saturday. What have you got for them games? Maybe just Saturday's games you've got, yeah?
I think they're both on site. So we got Cardiff at 30 against Stoke. I'm not sure what they are against Blackburn yet. I don't know what you think, Joe. Good price, 30
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, I fancy
Not
Cardiff.
too bad.
Fancy them.
Good. Tempt you into a few quid, shall I?
Good turn on.
Sunderland Swansea then. This is an interesting one. Sunderland 10th. They've been kind of good, really good at some games, and really bad, Sunderland.
Sunderland fairly strong favourites. We got the Swansea at 7. The Swansea 7-2, 3.5 to 1. So we don't expect them to win.
Okay, that's fair enough. League Two is wide open. I don't know if you've looked at League Two recently. Top 3. There's only 3 points between Wrexham in third place and top place, and they've got a game in hand, so they could go top with that game in hand. And then all the way from 7th to 14th, which Newport are 14th. 7th is a playoff spot, of course. There's only 2 points between them. So League Two is going to be incredible till the end of the season. MK Dons 5th, playing Newport. Tough game for Newport. What have you got for that?
So Newport, we are 4 to 1. So that's a tough game.
Okay.
But we've got some interesting stuff on the promotion and relegation in that league, I think.
Okay, go. What have you got?
Yeah, so we got Newport to make the playoffs. Newport is 16 to 1 to be in the top 7, which I think you like that, guy. I don't know. You're a really secret county fan, aren't you?
No, I just think they're going to do it. I just fancy Will Evans to drag him up. What do you reckon?
No, I don't fancy Newport.
No?
Playoffs, no.
No?
Why? They're on a good run of games.
Yeah, Will Evans, I think, is brilliant, but I think that league there's a lot of talent in League Two this season. I just don't think Newport have enough quality or squad depth. You know, if he gets injured, you know, it's someone hard to replace. But I don't think this year in particular, I don't think Newport will make it.
That's the mad thing, though, because I was saying 7th to 14th, all them teams are in the mix there. Do you know what I mean? It could go either way for
Even
anybody.
the top. If you look at Wrexham, Stockport,
yeah.
Yeah, two teams which come from the conference. They're up there, and Notts County.
And Mansfield are in the mix there as well. So, yeah. So what have you got on Wrexham then, James?
Well, like you were just saying, it's a crazy league. The odds bounce in and out all the time. So when we started the podcast, Wrexham were 11 to 4 to win it. They're now back to 11 to 4 to win it. I think last week they were up to 6 to 1. So it just shows how much the odds go up and down. Yeah. And they're 1 to 8 to get promoted. So we're pretty sure they're going to get promoted. But to win the league, 11 to 4.
Okay.
A good bet again. That man you speak of, Will Evans, 11 to 2 to be top goal scorer. So he's currently on 19 goals, which is 3 behind Longstaff of Notts County.
I wouldn't be surprised if he scored a try as well. Do you know what I mean? He can do anything.
Yeah, he's that good.
Yeah.
I went to the Dogs yesterday to try and get my dartboard off Gerwyn Price, but he wasn't there. So I was at the Valley Stadium. Hoping Gezi would be there, but good. Failed.
Okay, let's move on to our game of the week then. What have we got as game of the week this week?
Oh, it's a big one this week. Big one. Penarth against Penalta. Penarth against Penturk. So it's at Penturk. We've got Penarth, Heavy Fabs. This is Division 2 of the East Central League. All the big stuff. Forget the Six Nations. This is where it's at.
Derby there.
It is, yeah. A good one. So we got Penarth, the pretty heavy favourites. They're 28 point favourites in the match. But it should be a good one, actually.
Well, I'm going to go, I say Penturk, because as a Welsh speaker, and I used to play for them as well. So that if I've got to back my team, do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So, outside half and then full back.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I always think I was quick enough for the wing, but then I didn't get it for the ball. You know, I was an intelligent little player, you know what I mean? So get me on the ball. Penturk all the way for me. And then our charity bet this week. So every single week we get a charity bet in the studio and all the profits go to charity. We mentioned it earlier, we did well last week. I'm going to go this week for none of the Welsh football teams to lose. So what are you going to give me on
interesting
that?
One. So we are going to do a boost on that. So that's the Saturday games, because they've got games on Tuesday, some of them. So we're going to go the Saturday games. We'll push it out to 7 to 2. So that's 3.5 to 1 that none of them lose. So they could draw as long as none of them get beat.
I want more. Come on.
Oh, you're a man in form, Gay. You had us last weekend with restricting your account.
Okay. Fair enough. Ian, are you allowed to bet? You're not allowed to bet, are you?
No, we can't bet, sadly.
Okay. So, Joe, it's on you to have the charity bet. What do you fancy?
I'm going Scotland, Ireland double.
Scotland, Ireland double.
That's not much of a price.
What about get some points?
I tell you what, yeah, should we do it on the points? We'll
Yeah.
do, I tell you what, Scotland to win and Ireland to beat the points, which is 22. That works out at 2-1. But for you, Joe, I'll give you 5-2, I think.
Take that.
So 2.5 to 1.
There we go for that, yeah.
Yeah,
Lovely.
so you basically got 2.5 to 1. The points.
James,
Sounds good.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Be lucky, but not too lucky, yeah?
But before you go as well, we've got the Wales-Finland odds. I know you were talking about it earlier.
Oh, yeah, go on.
Yeah, so Wales are 17-20 to beat Finland, so they're odds on, which is a good sign. I would have thought they were probably a bit bigger, but yeah, 17-20 at the moment. The draw's just over 2-1, and Finland are 3-1.
Okay, and we'll get more odds from you guys on that kind of near the time in a month's time.
Near the time.
For the specials.
And Joe Ledley's 100-1 to be next Cardiff City manager after his gambit there.
Great stuff, James. Thank you so much, mate.
Cheers, boys. Thanks. Cheers.
And for you listening, remember, all your betting needs are covered from the lower leagues to the top leagues with Dragon Bet, the only place for Welsh sporting fans to bet. So get involved with the bookies that look after Welsh sport. But of course, please gamble responsibly. There we go. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Hot in here today, isn't it? Really hot.
Tight, yeah.
I mean, Joe, all the best with everything, a new venture with Ian. And Ian, thanks for your time. And I'll probably see you at the Sporting Stadium sometime soon. You're there on your socials anyway, definitely. Thanks for listening today, wherever you are. We really appreciate it. Remember, we'll be back next Monday for more Sporting Wales chat, and you can follow us on Instagram at Sporting Wales, or pick up the magazine in various sport clubs, gyms, leisure centres, and lots of other places right across Wales, and of course online. Or you can subscribe at sporting.wales to have it in your inbox. And please click follow wherever you listen to this podcast from, so it's delivered to you as soon as it's out every single Monday. Tell your friends about us and share the love, and we'll catch you next week wherever you go. Wherever you are, enjoy your Sporting Wales week.
Sporting Wales podcast.
Supported by Dragon Bet.
Your go-to for Welsh sports news and views.